All right, how's everybody doing today? Guys can find me on Twitter. I am at Big Chonas. These are all my best ideas. I take technical analysis very seriously. I'm a crypto trader, an investor, a mentor, a chart psychologist. Please do your own research. Okay, guys, let's get right into it here. This is Bitcoin's chart here. I'm gonna maximize this here. And I was unable to do this video live because the hotel internet I am staying in Las Vegas is not that great. So I'm just going to pre-record this at the hour into our current daily candle. So let's look at how yesterday's candle, which just closed about an hour ago, this guy here, let's see how that closed there. So getting rejected here on the EMA 26 still. Finding that rejection, I think on the middle Bollinger is, oh, that is the middle Bollinger. Okay, yeah, so we definitely wicked out. I haven't even touched our middle Bollinger now. It's actually getting a little lower there. Now, we did find support on our bottom wick here as we got closer to our EMA 12. And listen, this is another kind of a hanging man looking candle here. On, again, declining volume. And we're looking at today's follow-up here, and we're still kind of watching to see if the bulls can still make a move here. Now, I'm going to go into my 15-minute chart here. And you can see that after we had our crazy tether dump Bitcoin pump pop we had a couple days ago, we are still drifting higher. You know, we are still drifting higher, and a couple little volume spikes here and there, but that's why you really can't look at these tighter time frames here, because you see all these little wicks, little hicks, but we're still drifting higher. And we had only retraced, or I should say only, we have retraced when we actually had our pullback here, swing high to our swing low right here at 60 and change. Before basically we had our nice little pump here. We did get as low as a fib retest of a little below 55 and a little between 61.8. So that is still, you know, a valid pullback. It just happened very fast. Like, it happened literally just, you know, a couple 15-minute candles after we actually had our top off here. We really capitulated very quickly, but we have still been able to trickle up. So, you know, you have to ask yourself, do the bulls really have a feeling that this is done and they can't rise any higher? Is this the point where Bitcoin, you know, begins to dump off here and basically feel like, you know, this bear market continuation can continue? Remember, when we wicked off here at $6,800, that area has been consistently an area here. Let me get actually to a higher time frame. Go to my 4 hour. Oh, come on. There we go. Right here. This is the area where we actually wicked off. What the heck is that? Back here in late September. Right here. We had a little bull pop in late September, brought us down from 61.45 all the way up to 6,800. And that 6,800 was then retested back on September 28th with a lower high. And now this wick off we had here a couple days ago, basically to the penny really, coincides with this area of 6,800 being a very strong resistance area here. Now we did our little inverse BART here. This wick though is not like the previous wicks we've actually seen when we've done this inverse BART. This is just a big taking profits off the table if you were able to basically catch this on the 4 hour. This nice little tweezer here and kind of ride this one. They had a very similar tweezer over here, which actually had a nice little pop, kind of a test one, right? But this was the big boy here. Now, because of this move, I'm going to go back to my daily chart. Take a peek here at what our indicators are looking at. Now, we have been finding this rejection candle on this line here. We're still holding above it, and we're still actually finding a little bit of support on this line. Now, we are still sub 50. We got rejected, remember, sub 50. And we're still putting in a lower high compared to where we were in the beginning of the month. And we've been, every time we've kind of broken bullish ever since early September when we broke really bearish here, we're still putting in those lower highs as we climb up. We're also putting in lower lows when we actually break bearish there. So we're actually putting this descending wedge on our daily RSI, even though for the moment, for the meantime, we are slightly holding this resistance line that could potentially act as support, but I want to give this a little more confirmation here. Now we're stochastic on our daily. Look at that. We actually were able, now this is kind of interesting here. We broke through our rejection line. We broke through our resistance line on our stochastics here, okay? But our price action has like barely moved. So what's this about? This is basically showing, I kind of see this as like where we just lost some running room here, you know, because when our stochastic rises and gets to this upper area here, especially on the daily chart, we can see times where we basically have a pattern where on the daily we can be up here for, you know, a couple weeks, but then also we can be up here just very quickly, taking just a very quick 1 to 3 day bars up here in this upper area, in this 100 area of our daily stochastic. This move, which really isn't much of a move here, has kind of brought us higher with very little to actually speak about in terms of the actual price action here. Okay, so we've lost some running room in our Stoke, and we've barely moved in our RSI, and we've barely moved in our price action. And our Stoke has risen, as well as our MACD has crossed officially, but still remains in this lower low currently, although we have put in, interesting, we put in a bullish histogram for the first time here. Now let's just pattern this out here. We did we did 20 bars here, a bullish, and we only did 6 bars bearish before we actually put in a higher histogram. And kind of reminds me, I mean, remember back here in June we had some of that chop, but ever since June we had a pretty consistent, you know, we're bullish, we're bearish, we're bullish, we're bearish, we're bullish, or bearish, but this kind of feels a little short to me. You know, this kind of feels like really that was it. That was the only little correction you had there. But that's notable. We do have to note that we are now once again putting in a higher, a bullish histogram with a bull cross on our MACD. OBV, we actually have currently found support, still holding once we found our bottom here. Remember, we're putting in a lower low here, okay, on our MACD, but we also have broken through this particular resistance line that was started here back in July, topped off in September 20th, and once again retested around October 10th here, found support there and basically have broken above it, and currently putting in a higher low than we did earlier in October, and still having that lower low we did in mid-September there. So we're still in this pattern, but again, this is showing, well, there's a little more bullishness here. We're actually beginning to put in a higher low, at least from our short-term areas here. Now, we've done this a couple times in the past just to give it all up very quickly here. And we're also getting tighter in our apex area as well. And I'm also keeping an eye on our chalky money flow. This feels like a bear flag, doesn't it? You know, where we basically had come all the way back down below our negative line, and now we're just crawling up to par here. Remember, we got to get way up here. We got to get, you know, above the 0.1, the 0.15 to really show some money flow coming back into the market here. Trickling. Again, we're watching this sideways price action. Remember, this is a big move here, and this basically big move was what happened because, you know, we had a very tight daily Bollinger. Now, this move had spread out our Bollingers here. We actually found our resistance right on our upper BB there. They got a little bit wider, but, you know, relatively speaking, they're still pretty tight. You know, they're still pretty tight, even though they have widened a little bit here. Still finding that resistance here on our middle BB. Upper BB can take us back to 67 and change. Lower BB is just flatlined back at 61, 64 area here. I'm kind of hide my BBs. Look at a TD here. We're on a green 4. And this can stay pretty green as long as we stay above kind of this area here. We're basically just starting this new pattern here, and as long as we can stay above $6,400, we can continue a green TD count here. It's been so choppy, this kind of chop here. It's been quite a while since we've had you know, a completed 9 up or close to a completed 9 down. We got to about a 7 here. I think we got to about a 9 on Bitfinex. Or maybe I'm thinking about this one here, actually. Yeah, so the TD's been kind of tough on the daily, but I think it was the 12-hour. Yeah, see, interesting. So the 12-hour, we actually have been able to get a green 6, and we definitely do begin to see changes if we're unable to hold the pattern on or about the 6 candle at certain time frames. The 12-hour definitely does count as one of those time frames. The 6 hour is just a whole bunch of chop here, isn't it? We're basically, yeah, kind of chopping there. So not much there. So yeah, kind of not much giving us with the TD here. On the daily, we're basically mid-cycle, if you will, through it there. Get rid of that guy and bring up our Ichimoku. Still spread out on our indicators here, still way below our cloud. Notice our cloud resistance gets a lot lower as we get in the end of October into November, basically down to 6,500 becomes our resistance, which actually stopped our run more or less back in the early part of September. We were flirting with that area there, right? And just couldn't get over. Same thing about early September here. Rejection of our upper cloud there, couldn't get in, and then boom. So this cloud has been very significant in terms of a rejection, especially in the daily chart that shows that kind of circumstance here. We're midweek, but I do want to look at the weekly candle because I think it's notable just the fact that it just has this crazy upper wick here, you know. This, I mean, this funny too because this wick kind of happened like the first day of the week, and we've kind of been in this kind of situation here ever since. We can see the rejection once again on our EMA 12. You know, how many weeks have we rejected it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks in a row. We just can't get above our EMA 12 here. I pull up our Bollingers here. They're really tight on the weekly chart. You know, comparatively speaking, they're much more tighter than the daily is. Well, no, they're as tight. They're as notably tight as the daily is. And that's important. Now, also look at, oh, interesting, the weekly 200 on Coinbase, because there's so little information. It's just started. Wow, it's crazy. It's just started on the weekly chart there. And it's currently at $3,000, which basically is in line more or less with the other charts are showing as well. But that's interesting. MA200 right here at $3,000. And, I mean, listen, EMA 55, all of our EMAs, all of them are resistance. And they've been that way for weeks, right? This is the weekly one, too. They've just been this way for weeks. Okay, so I know that, you know, it's frustrating to basically want to be bullish and want to kind of tell people what they want to hear, but just to also continue to keep it real about what I'm seeing in this chart. And the manipulation is just nuts. I mean, it's just nuts. We saw with what happened with Tether and the way that the exchanges have been just defending 6K. Look at our MA 100 here, okay? About $5,600 here. We haven't tested that forever. You know, these are so many MAs. Our longer term ones, our MA 100, our MA 200. Where's our 50? Yeah, look at our 50. Our 50 is actually the only thing that we're actually showed a major rejection on right here on the weekly when we basically topped off at $8,400. That was a very strong rejection. And we still got a long way to go before we get some sort of a potential death cross situation going on here. But this is still just an unwinding. It just still looks like an unwinding. There's nothing about this pattern here, and I can even look at it on log scale and just shows you how much of this bull run we've yet to test and recorrect into, and we haven't tested these EMAs yet. And in previous bull runs and then our bear corrections, we have tested and broken these major EMAs on these higher time frames, only to basically regain them as support, signalizing that basically we have come out of our bear market. Let's bring up our monthly here. Remember, we're about mid-month, okay, about halfway through October. You know, kind of the same candle pattern, very tighter body currently, a long bottom wick, kind of a shorter top wick. Look at our volume, just so noticeably. We're just losing our momentum here. Remember, you want higher volume. If we saw higher volume, I'd be with the same other price. I'm thinking accumulation, right? I'm still not thinking accumulation. I'm just not. Notice on our monthly here, this is our, interesting, EMA 26 is at $5,600 as well. Interesting, so there's a correlation with the EMA 26 and the EMA 100 on different time frames, the monthly versus the weekly there. As well as our EMA 12 here keeps acting as resistance. So what are our Bollingers telling us here? Aha, so look at, we tested and held support on our middle BB, August. Did it again, September. We broke it midweek, right, earlier. And then we had our pop up. and we're just holding our middle Bollinger on our monthly chart. And yes, I feel, oh, I gotta get a log, that's why. There we go. And yes, I feel it's significant. Also, notice our lower Bollinger is finally getting, looks like next month it's going to be in the positive. You know, that just goes to show how freaking wide our monthly Bollingers still are. I mean, these are just, you know, we talk about how close the daily and weekly is. Monthlies are still incredibly wide. You know, we're still $13,000 apart, our low and our high on our monthly. You know, that's a lot. That's a lot. And that's why I feel we're still plenty of time. And that's the thing. This take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of time for our Bollingers to tighten and for this pattern to basically complete itself and to find a reason to get bullish again in the market, the overall market. Let's take a look here at a couple things. You know, we were seeing alts individually have movements based on certain circumstances, individual stories, okay? But as a whole, you know, we're not seeing and the biggest thing about it is look at our longs and shorts. Let me go to the weekly here. Look at our weekly longs here. This is a terrible candle. This is a brutal candle right now. Shooting star followed up with just this almost Maribozu, you know, wick on bottom, wick on top, but that's a nasty candle. This is longs here. This is people that are supposed to feel bullish about Bitcoin, and they're just dumping. Look at shorts. They had a rough go of it earlier in the week, but they've kind of risen from the ashes, if you will, from that, kind of recovered from that move there. And listen, they're positioned once again to retest this all-time high zone. They're getting rejected and rejected and rejected, but how many times can they get rejected before they kind of bust through? This is still a bullish pattern on Bitcoin shorts and a bearish pattern on Bitcoin longs. So this is where you kind of look for that conviction in the market. And we're not really oversold or overbought in either one, not to the way I feel it. You know, definitely not overbought in shorts. And longs, I definitely keep an eye on to see if they get crazy low. But we can see our pattern here. We can see our channel, and we still have a ways to go if we want to touch our lower channel support, you know, which has caused little small interim bounces there on our Bitcoin longs. So that's how I see that as well. Let me go to a couple more things here. Let's look at CME futures, see if we have any gaps in the chart. Remember, all gaps get filled. Time frames are subjective, though. Looks like the 4 hour is clean. Let's go to our 1 hour. Yeah, these are kind of, yeah, these are clean. See, look, there was a gap there, filled it over here. Nothing. Let me just go to the half hour, even though I really don't like going that low, but definitely made a difference when we had this wick here. We actually filled the gap there. This looks clean. Up here is clean. Yeah, we're pretty clean here. I don't see, oh, there's one. Yeah, right there. That's a gap. That's a gap in the half hour. Right there. And I'm going to mark it with the price label. So yeah, right there. A little gap in the price between 61.41 and 61.44. Right there. Okay? This gap will get filled. Because they all get filled. At least in this current term here. There are some gaps still way above 10,000. Haven't gotten filled yet, and that's notable as well. And we'll probably fill those at some time, but it could take a while. But this one here, keep note of that, 61.40. There's a little gap there on the half hour CME futures chart. That's interesting. What else we got here? Quick look at Ethereum. You know, we've been in this 203 area, Litecoin 5290, you know, area there. I mean, again, is this cheap? Is Litecoin cheap right now? You know, is ETH cheap? Some of the alts are popping because just the charts and Bitcoin stability has allowed this. You know, we've always seen when Bitcoin remains stable and slightly bullish, then it can definitely bring some of those charts along with it. All coins allowed to pump. Market cap 211 billion. Volumes still weakening. Now we saw Bitcoin dominance 53.7. This actually fell a couple of percentage points. We saw a little bit of money flow into a couple alts. And this was also people taking money off the table when the Bitcoin pump happened. From the Tether dump volume back to 4 billion. We're going to get over under 3 billion probably tomorrow, unless we see some popping. So look at it. We went from 3 to 3 to 3 to 7. Okay, this was our wow. Like we want to get days like 7. Okay, that reminds me of March, April, May. We had 7s. Now we have 3s and 4s. This is not bull market yet, you know. And to have a follow up with the 4 billion, another follow up with the 4 billion. I don't like it. I don't like it. Market cap is just struggling to hold over 100 billion overall in Bitcoin. 114, 113, 113. Quick look here at what kind of caused that interesting pop here. Look at Tether, still at 95 cents, still at a 5% premium to Bitcoin. That's why you're still seeing that discrepancies on the Tether exchanges. That's why you have Binance still at 6,700 with Bitcoin, and Phoenix at 6,700 as well with Bitcoin as well. But right now, it's got to use the USDs. You got to use Coinbase. You know, you got to use Bittrex. You got to use Stamp, just because they're the more accurate chart. You know, even this, they're just the more accurate. This is the actual value that you can cash out Bitcoin for actual cash, and that has to remain. Now remember, the arbitrage will lessen if Tether can get his act together and get back up to $1 and hold $1. You'll definitely see that disparity kind of fall. So, you know, in the meantime, I want to bring up my 6 hour here. Get this going here. You know, every time we try and break bearish, we're seeing the wicks bought up, but we're just not breaking bullish yet. You know, no one wants to really buy Bitcoin above 64 or 50. They just really don't. Getting super tight here on our candles. Our volume is terrible. You gotta ask yourself, like, what's the pump? What's the next caveat that's going to bring us up? Because we're still putting in, even after this move here, you know, we're still holding this lower low from where we were about a week ago. You know, we basically topped off here at 66.84. Our wick broke it, but our close didn't on the 6 hour here. Rejection. So this is a line of resistance here. This one here. Let me make it white so you can see it. And that's holding. I'm sorry. I couldn't hit my mute button in time. So that's what I'm seeing in Bitcoin. I'm going to be in Vegas for a couple more days here, having some fun with some of my old friends. I used to live here, and as you can see, I'm kind of hitting up my old stomping grounds. This was an old place we used to get a steak. That was a lot cheaper than it is now, and still the same quality, so that kind of stinks, but it was all for the culture, I guess. So I'll definitely put out some more tweets as I'm here. Kind of, you know, enjoying myself, having a good time, and just trying to unwind a little bit and enjoy some of the nice weather before winter kicks into gear. You know, also notice here, you know, we're getting tighter in our equilibrium, and this can definitely take us a couple more days. You know, we could definitely go sideways here for several more days of price action here before we break our next little equilibrium and basically retest our big one. We're still putting in lower highs. We're still putting in, at least short term, some higher lows. One of them's going to break. Now, what's the break? What really needs to be the break? Bull break of 7,400 and hold is very significant. The bear break of 5,700 and this area, basically our June lows, and hold makes it very significant, especially a close below like 6K gets really scary. And then after that, like, a lot can happen very quickly. But we're still tightening, and we still can tighten for days, if not a week or two, before some more fireworks can happen. So keep an eye on this. Stay safe in your trades. This is a very tough area to trade Bitcoin because of how tight it is, but we have seen consistent times when it does have this tight range with the chance for bullishness. Alts have been able to pop here and there. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Remember to follow me on Twitter, and if you enjoyed this broadcast, please give me a thumbs up. We'll be in touch. Big Chonas signing out.